So, here we are. And I just got back from seeing Batman: The Killing Joke, the animated film adaptation, which got a very limited one-night-only theatrical showing. Several showings tonight, but only one night. Before I begin, I think I better point out where I stand on the controversy surrounding the original graphic novel by Alan Moore and Brian Bolland. Or Bolland. Well, it doesn't matter, whatever. Do I like The Killing Joke? The answer is yes. Yes, I do. However, I also acknowledge that it has problems. I agree with everyone who has said that it has problems because of the way the story treats Barbara Gordon. The original graphic novel does, in fact, treat Barbara Gordon like a prop. She is shot and paralyzed and stripped naked by the Joker purely for purposes of motivation for the other three characters in this story: Batman, the Joker, and Commissioner Gordon. Everything is about how they react to what happens to her, not about her herself. This is a problem. This is not a good thing, and not really... It's the progenitor of the women in refrigerators trope. It's the seed that got started with it, that led to other problems in DC's comics. Now, some will argue that by doing that, that made Barbara Gordon a more interesting character than just Batgirl by causing her to become Oracle. Well, that's all well and good, but that wasn't in the cards at the time that The Killing Joke was published. As many people want to argue, The Killing Joke actually wasn't meant to be in continuity with the regular Batman series. It was meant to be a standalone. And a few other... For some reason, DC editorial decided to make it canonical, and it was later writers who fixed, for a given value of fixed, the incident by making Barbara Oracle. So, those are problems. Overall, yes, I like the story told in The Killing Joke. If you have a problem with that, I'm sorry. But that's just the way it is. It is a story that I like because I find it interesting. Because it's different from every other Batman story out there. It's different in execution, it's different in the story it's trying to tell, and it's different in its ending. So, if you have a problem with me liking The Killing Joke, then I invite you to stop this video now. If you want my honest opinion on how the film adaptation was, keep watching. The movie is a mixed bag. There's some really good stuff, and there's some stuff that's not so good. In terms of execution, in terms of storytelling, in terms of writing, I'll get to those in a minute. Let me get the one thing out first, that is the resounding positive of this whole thing. This film contains what very well may be the finest vocal performances from Mark Hamill, from Kevin Conroy, and especially from Tara Strong in their entire careers. There is subtlety, there is nuance, there is everything you could ever want in this story. The three of them get it. The way this story is constructed and what the story is trying to accomplish. This is completely different from the way they were doing things on Batman the Animated Series. It's still there, but there's more to it. There's a depth to it. You care about all three of them from these performances. For that alone, I would say you should see it, if you can get past the problematic elements of the story, because the problematic elements are still there. Now, everyone involved with this production acknowledges these problems. They'd be fools not to. The problem is that their solution isn't really a solution. They decided to both address the issues and pad out the runtime, because The Killing Joke, for all of its interesting and well-constructed storytelling, is not a very long story. It's not. You can read the actual graphic novel in about 15 to 20 minutes if, you're not focusing on the artwork. I don't think Brian Azzarello was the right writer to tackle this material. They should not have given him this assignment. They should have let somebody else do it. Ideally, what they should have done is found a female writer who is willing to adapt this material to it and go with the exact same plan. I think it might have worked out better. The prologue isn't really a prologue. As many people online have already pointed out, the prologue is technically 25 minutes long. It's almost half the movie. And there's nothing wrong with this, because this story that is told is actually a very good Batgirl story. It is. The basic idea is that Batgirl and Batman stop this nephew of one of Gotham's biggest crime bosses from robbing a place. And more or less, the guy who goes by the street alias of Paris Franz, I'm not even kidding, becomes obsessed with Batgirl. And he is every sleazy douche bro you could ever think of. Alright? There's nothing he would like better than to have sex with her. And it becomes kind of an obsession. And the idea that they're going for, I get. They're trying to parallel his obsession with her to the same obsession that the Joker has with Batman. And the story goes on, and, Batgirl tries to do this, and the problem is she's also getting frustrated with Batman, because Batman's constantly telling her to get off the case because of the obsession. Now, it's implied throughout, and then ultimately culminates, and I'll get to that in a minute, that Batman has feelings that Bruce has feelings for Barbara. And he keeps ordering her off the case. Well, of course, she doesn't get off the case because she's getting tired of it. Because, as we all know, in this kind of story, Batman loves to push away the people he's working with. People who are supposedly his friends and partners. He does it for their own good. The problem is that he sucks at it. Batman has absolutely no sense of tact. It's just do as I say because I'm the boss. Well, that doesn't work when you're dealing with the people in the Bat family. When has that ever worked? With Barbara, with Dick, with Jason, with Tim, with Damian, even with Damian. And I hate Damian. Anyway, but I'm not going to go off on that rant. In any event, Batgirl gets involved, keeps going on with the case, and gets more and more involved, and that leads to what I have come to term the GIF heard round the internet. The GIF that came out of the San Diego Comic-Con showing of the show. the movie. Wherein, yes, they fight on the roof. Barbara gets fed up with Bruce's nonsense and starts attacking him, and she actually does get a couple of hits in. And then, you know, the old cliche of beating the hell out of each other and then suddenly just getting aroused, and the two of them succumb and have sex on a rooftop. You don't see anything. I'm going to make that clear. This is an R-rated movie, but mostly for violence and language. You do not actually see anything. The thing that they don't tell you, and I'm honestly not sure whether this is a good or bad thing, because it can be interpreted either way, is we cut to the very next morning in Barbara's apartment, and she acknowledges to herself that that was a mistake. They do us the favor of going into detail that the sex was fantastic, but Barbara says to herself that it was admits to herself that it was a mistake and it shouldn't have happened. Now you can interpret this one of two ways. One, this is empowering, with her realizing, yeah, we both screwed up and this shouldn't have happened. Or you can interpret it as extremely one-sided, because we only see Barbara's reaction to that. We don't see what Batman's is. We're only told. We're told that he just kind of gets a little weirded out and stops talking to her for a few days. And Barbara can't figure out her feelings and screams at him when he still won't let her back on the case when they finally track the guy down. And basically, the guy gets the drop on Batman, blows the hell out of the Batmobile with a couple of rocket launchers, so Babs comes in and saves him, and gets to the point where she's about to kill the fucker because he's still professing how much he loves her. And just how this whole thing with him getting obsessed with her and really kind of getting in her head has kind of messed up everything. And Barbara comes this close to killing him. And as a result of this, she quits being Batgirl. And that's pretty much where the prologue ends. And then we go into the Killing Joke proper. Taking the segments that are actually from the Killing Joke on their own, this is actually a very good adaptation. Just about everything is there, shot for shot. And as I said, the actual vocal performances are incredible. You feel for it. Mark Hamill has found a voice that is the Joker and isn't in all the flashback sequences. You feel sorry for the guy and what happens to him and all that. But again, the problem is that I really don't think Brian Azzarello was the right one. He adapted the Killing Joke segments, the actual story, really well. The problem is that these two pieces don't mesh. They don't. You feel like you're watching two different stories. The tone is different. The dialogue flow is different. It's completely different. The prologue is good, don't get me wrong. And the Killing Joke segments is good, don't get me wrong. They're good. But they don't link together. They don't. It doesn't work. It doesn't mesh. It doesn't feel like these stories go together. You don't really see how they try to draw parallels, but they fail. They try to draw parallels between the two stories, and it doesn't work. There is no real link between what happens with Batgirl and what happens with Batman in these two stories. They don't mesh, they don't work together. On their own, either one of them would have been fine. Of course, with the Killing Joke, you'd still have the problematic elements, but you have the problematic elements with Barbara having sex with Bruce on the roof. As I said, I can't help but think this might have been better if they had turned it over to a female writer. Given her the exact same mandate and told them, try to make it work so we can keep all the plot elements, but somehow add this prologue bit to it so it doesn't it makes things better, so it resolves some of that issues. Otherwise, if you read The Killing Joke, you know where the story goes. You know what the Joker's up to, and you know what's going on, and I don't feel the need to recount that here. If you really do, just go look on Wikipedia. Most of the actual dialogue is word for word. Some bits are cut, but otherwise everything, dialogue-wise, it's pretty much everything that's there. Did I like the movie? Again, much like The Killing Joke, yes I did, but it has problems. The problematic elements are still there. The gif heard around the internet is still, doesn't really... I can't help but feel if that bit was just left out, that one, not even 30-second bit had been left out, it might have actually made the thing stronger and gotten the point across. I don't know why it was put in there. It didn't need to be in there. And it's kind of made the problem worse. But overall, yes, I like the movie. Would I recommend you see it? That depends entirely on how much the problematic elements of The Killing Joke bother you. If you already hated The Killing Joke because of those elements, don't bother. Don't. Or, if the curiosity is getting to you so badly, watch the first half. Watch the bits with Batgirl, because as I said, this prologue bit is a very good Batgirl story. And in case you're wondering, once they get through all the Killing Joke stuff, they have a credit and then a mid-credit bit, and yeah, it shows Barbara becoming Oracle. But at that point, it just feels like a case of too little, too late, honestly. It's cool, but yeah, it still feels like too little, too late. If you liked The Killing Joke, you will most likely like this movie. If you like Batgirl, and you've never read The Killing Joke, actually, if you've never read The Killing Joke in general, I would say watch this movie and make up your own mind. It might work for you, it might not. I'm not going to say you'll like it. This is a dark and very nasty story. Okay? This is grim. This is doing things to these characters that are dark and disturbing. And you may not like it. There's a lot of things in here that you might not like. But as I said, if you've liked The Killing Joke, you will most likely like this movie. If you've never read The Killing Joke, I would recommend you see this movie. Let me rephrase that. If you never read The Killing Joke but are curious, yes, see this movie. I would even argue if you like Batgirl, watch the first half of this movie and ignore the bit with the gif heard around the world. Because it is a very good Batgirl story. A very good Batgirl story. If you hated The Killing Joke, you are not going to like this movie. And there's nothing I can say that's going to change your mind. I would encourage you to judge it on its own merits and see whether or not said Batgirl story ameliorates the problematic elements overall. It might not. Your mileage may vary. So, I will say this. I would recommend anybody seeing this movie just for the voice acting alone. I will understand if you don't want to. I will understand if you still hate the movie even if you decide to see the movie hating The Killing Joke and you still hate it afterward, that's fine. If you don't like it, that's fine. But for the love of God, I encourage you to at least give it a chance just to experience these performances. They are excellent. They are phenomenal. I have never heard voice acting this well in anything so far in my life. That alone, I think, merits one watch. And after that, what you decide to do, that's entirely up to you. I liked it. I will most likely be purchasing the film when it comes out on Blu-ray. I make no apologies for that. The story has problems, and their solution to those problems, unfortunately, is sadly lacking. The gif heard around the internet pretty much just makes the problems worse and I'm hesitant to say ruins, but it's the only word I can think of right now. Ruins what is otherwise a very good Batgirl story. One of the best Batgirl stories I've ever seen, with performances that are phenomenal. Their solution is incomplete, and it's disjointed. The two halves of this movie do not work together. They don't. They should have gotten somebody else. Brian Azzarello's comments to critics, to people who lobbied criticism at the Comic-Con panel, are all well known at this point. So, again, my final verdict on this. If you like The Killing Joke, see this movie. If you haven't read The Killing Joke but are curious, see this movie. If you hate The Killing Joke and cannot get past any of the problems that it has, do not see this movie. If, however, you hate The Killing Joke but but are willing to put up with those problematic elements one more time to hear some phenomenal voice acting bringing this story to life, then yes, see this movie. I leave it up to you. So until next time, this has been Cinematic Masochism. The things I do so that maybe you people don't have to. Good night.